Welcome to another very exciting session of healthcare entrepreneurship. So, today we are going to talk about where we left in the last class and go from there. Okay. So, let us get started. Some of the poor or weak contacts included uh, people who basically hung up their calls. So, once we started speaking about the idea or the feedback mechanism, they basically just dropped the call. And there was another person who said there was no problem with the existing material which they use, and they would like to keep on using it. So, they do not want any change into their manufacturing line, they do not least bother about any kind of product offering in this synthetic skin domain which we are offering, right. So, this was the feedback, very straightforward and blunt, negative feedback, but good to hear, right. So, what were the key conclusions out of this initial week of interviews? We discovered that although some companies may use silicone materials to fit prosthetic devices to patients to optimize comfort, many do not modify its composition at all. So, they just typically use some silicone based material, and our synthetic skin was also silicone based. They do not change the composition, they have a single composition which is kind of what they get out of the market. What we do as a patent protected product was we change the composition and we can make it very unique for a particular person, but that was not the case for majority of the companies, right. None of them test their material properties on the of their patient's skin to customize the silicone to match. So, they do not care about customizing the silicone, they neither have the expertise. So, they basically buy something of the market and then they just keep on using it. This inevitably may result in varying levels of discomfort due to natural differing mechanical properties of the skin. So, we have so many different skin types, and just a single one stop solution may not be useful here, where they are having the same kind of silicone liners for everything. Sensitive skin spots, like, or people who have allergic reactions, protruding bones and ulcers. So, many of the particular patients have protruding bones, ulcers. So, that may need a better kind of setting, something similar to our artificial skin than standard materials. Since companies recognize the need for such a customized material, there seemed to be a market for our synthetic skin. So, what we did conclude was there seemed to be some market for the synthetic skin, but we were still not very clear where that market exactly lied. What exactly product could we plug this particular synthetic skin in, so that we get a really nice turnaround and we can make profit, right. So, the next week what we did was we ran a further hypothesis that prosthetic and orthotic companies are huge potential markets for customized skin like material for improving the comfort of a few product segments. So, the difference of week 2 and week 3 is basically, earlier we were talking about that this is going to enhance comfort of all the product segments, but now we said this can enhance the comfort of just a few product segments, because of the feedback which we have received from the customers, we realized that this could probably cater to just a few product segments. What was the experiment that we did? We followed up with the companies which we called and spoke with last week, and called 20 new prosthetic companies to discuss which of their products use silicone materials. So, now if you look at the questionnaire, it is much more toned down. We wanted to know more about them. So, we have done this wrong initially a little bit, now we wanted to correct it. So, we wanted to know more about which of your products actually use silicone based materials. If there are instances of discomfort reported by patients, do you hear discomfort reported by patients? If a more comfortable material may add value, right. So, here we are not pitching about our synthetic skin, but trying to indirectly ask that, do you think a better material would be valuable for the existing problems which you are facing with your silicone based materials? Believe it or not, as a result, out of 31 interviews, all indicated that they use silicone materials in majority of their products. 23 commented that their current products were doing just fine in terms of comfort, maybe new products may be valuable. So, 23 out of 31 is a majority. So, we again get a hit on our face, where 23 of them said like they do not want to change, they do not care about a new material at all, right. And this may happen to a lot of your products which you are trying to build. It is better to get this early feedback than have a later feedback when the market, when you go out in the market and the market does not buy it, then you get a, then you do not get a chance to retract back. So, here in this phase we had all the chance to not go full blown in the market and still be okay. Even if the product fails in the initial customer discovery phase, I do not incur any losses. So, I would encourage all the entrepreneurs in the healthcare space to do this due diligence with the customer discovery before we head to the market right away, right. So, what did we find out from our results was, maybe a new product built with our synthetic skin would be valuable rather than the synthetic skin itself, or the fact that we are just trying to integrate the synthetic skin in a few different products which are existing. They said, can you build something new that could be valuable? So, what did we iterate? What new products with a comfortable skin like material will solve issue with the prosthetics and orthotics? So, that was our further iteration for the next week. Now, we wanted to dig deeper. Week 4, one thing to notice here is, as we go through the weeks, the logo which we have is changing. So, if you look at the logo here, we were looking at several different industries here and several different aspects, and now we have come to focus on just a few aspects, and you can look at a figure of an insole, right, which came out through this week 4. So, our hypothesis was, new products with a comfortable skin like material would be valuable for prosthetic and orthotic companies. Very generic. Prosthetic and orthotic companies is still your target segments, and you are focusing on the idea of new products with a comfortable synthetic skin like material. Comfortable is the value proposition. Okay. So, the experiment was follow up on companies called so far, and call 20 new prosthetic companies to discuss if there are any products that they would need with synthetic skin like material. That is one question. If there are any instances of discomfort reported by patients with any existing product. So, we wanted to dig in more so that we can find out what are the key new products which we can actually build. So, out of 43 interviews, 37 indicated foot comfort as an issue with the current silicone based materials. So, now that we have started asking the right feedbacks and the right questions, we started getting positive answers. 37 out of 43, which is a huge majority, very clearly told us that foot comfort is the issue. So, now our focus from prosthetic orthotics got even more converged to foot comfort, right. So, they said softer insoles may be valuable. So, they went on to the length to also give us the product out of this nice set of feedbacks, that if you can build a softer insole, we would be happy to take it. 8 of these folks mentioned that any comfortable product for diabetic patients may also be useful. So, we got this extra feedback. One was comfortable softer insole, and second was a comfortable product for diabetic patients, specifically in the insole domain, would be much more useful. So, we got a very clear idea of where we should focus on, right. So, the iteration for the next week was, what new products can enhance the foot comfort. So, we wanted to look at the foot comfort specifically now. Can new products be developed for diabetic patients? So, we wanted to take both these feedbacks and look at what new products can enhance foot comfort and what can be valuable for diabetic patients as a side segment or as a small cluster of this problem. So, week 5, new foot based orthotic products with comfortable skin like materials would be valuable, especially for diabetic patients. So, we also tried to dig in with the especially word for diabetic patients. We wanted to build some foot products which are skin like materials, which can be also very valuable for the diabetic customers as well as customers in general, right. So, the experiment was to follow up on companies called so far and call 20 new prosthetic and orthotic companies to discuss challenges with current foot based products and issues relating to discomfort reported by diabetic patients. This is as per the iteration which we had planned, and this is the experiment which we run. Out of 52 interviews, 48 indicated issues with material comfort and support in the insoles. Very key things have come up. Softer insoles may be valuable. 8 mentioned that a high comfort product for diabetic patients may be useful. So, now we are getting more and more into the features and the value proposition ideas that issues with material comfort and support. If we can provide the right material comfort and the support, this could be valuable for the generic customers, and with a very high comfort product for the diabetic customers with a little bit better customization would be valuable for the diabetic customers. So, what is our iteration next? What are the issues with the existing insoles in terms of material comfort and support? So, think about how diligently we wanted to find out that now we have recognized the issues with the material comfort and support in the insoles, but what are these issues exactly? We want to pinpoint them very clearly, because that will help us develop our product with this synthetic skin material very effectively. What are the additional requirements for diabetic patients? So, at this point I as a part of this company did not have too much of expertise into what the diabetic population really wears, what are the key modalities and important features for a diabetic insole, right. So, many a times you may not have the right expertise in a certain domain which you end up through your customer discovery. So, the answer to that is read it up and quickly catch up with the pace. As an entrepreneur, what we would like to do is whichever territories like we venture out into, if we do not know about it, quickly learn about it. Okay. So, going further, so on the week 6 what we did was the hypothesis was custom insoles with tunable materials and supports would be valuable, especially for diabetic patients, right. Very similar set of hypothesis. So, the experiment was follow up on companies called so far and called 20 new prosthetic and orthotic companies to discuss challenges with custom insoles, current custom insoles. We wanted to know more about the challenges with the existing insoles which they use, issues with the existing insole materials, especially in diabetic patients. We wanted to have the focus group for the customer discovery or the interviews for generic population as well as the diabetic patients. So, out of 67 interviews, 32 indicated issues with requirement to visit a doctor for fabrication of their custom insoles and high cost associated with these insoles. So, we have a very clear idea of the pain points faced by the existing customers. Now, we can very easily define our value propositions. So, what are the key pain points? The issue is they have to visit a doctor, get it fabricated. So, it is a time accessibility issue, like it is not very convenient, and second is, to add to it, most of the existing insoles have very high cost. 41 reported the lack of soft arch and heel cushion for their specific foot condition. So, they would like to have a better performing insole with a softer arch and heel cushions. So, these are specific features which they told out of their feedback. Now, we can incorporate that into our design, right. 13 diabetic patients explained the requirement for better foot pressure distribution. So, they wanted their foot pressure to be distributed very uniformly. So, just as a matter of understanding, a lot of diabetic patients have some problems related to neuropathy or complete numbness of their feet underneath at the very bottom of their foot, and basically they a typical pinch or scratch may start a diabetic ulcer, which can lead to several repercussions like further ulceration, ulcer propagation, gangrene, and requirement for an amputation. So, and the healing for majority of the diabetic ulcers are very poor, right. So, typically most of the diabetic patients would not want to have an ulceration at their foot. So, they would like to have a even distribution of the pressures, a very soft and comfortable insole. Iteration, we did not need further iteration, all the facts were collected through our customer discovery. Okay. So, let us summarize on how the 6 weeks of customer discovery look like. So, if you remember, we started with prosthetics and orthotics market will value our product the most. So, we had some set of target customers, broad target customers, that prosthetic and orthotics market will really value our product of synthetic skin. Then in week 2 we realized there is a market for our synthetic skin in the field of prosthetics and orthotics. It was kind of clarified. Week 3, prosthetics are doing just fine with the existing silicone material. So, this is based on the negative feedback which we got, or we could call it in a positive in this sense, we got a much more detailed insight. Existing products with silicone based materials were doing just fine. So, the suggestion was new products may be built with synthetic skin. So, this is our finding from week 3. Week 4, foot comfort was pinpointed as an issue. Softer insoles may be valuable. Any comfortable product for diabetic patients may be useful. right. Week 5, issues with material comfort and support in the insoles. So, further digging into the insole domain, high comfort product for diabetic patients are needed. Week 6, custom insoles require a person to visit a doctor for fabrication, incurs a high cost, lack soft arch and heel cushions for the specific foot conditions. Also in diabetic patients specifically, better foot pressure distribution is required. So, this is the summary of our findings and key highlights going from week 1 through week 6. So, what are the key painkillers which we have identified, which are categories of the value proposition? The key painkillers are comfort. So, currently the customers are facing issues with the comfort. Accessibility. So, they are not able to access these kind of insoles very quickly, and they have to visit a doctor, get it custom fabricated. Convenience, again this accessibility and convenience goes hand in hand here. So, these are the 3 pain points, and we can if we can provide this through our product, we can basically make the entire experience comfortable, accessible and convenience specific. What are some of the gain creators which are not the must have, but nice to have? Some sleekness and niceness in the designs. Segments, having different segments, like for diabetic patients separate insoles, for people with different plantar or foot pain conditions, different kinds of insoles, some level of customization, better performance than current insoles, and the price point. So, if we look at here, the cost basically goes into the gain creator rather than a painkiller. So, sometimes very often we can have particular points which can be listed in painkiller or gain creator. Why is this a gain creator and not a painkiller? Because most of these customers are willing to pay 3,000, 5,000 rupees or whatever equivalent that is, because they have a serious problem with their foot. They are willing to pay. What is bothering them is the comfort or accessibility or convenience. It is not the price, but it is nice to have a reduction of the price or a discount, right. That is why it is a gain creator rather than a painkiller. So, just to reiterate, painkillers are basically taking care of must have kind of features, and gain creators are good to have on top of the must have kind of features. So, another thing which we realized was during the value proposition or figuring out the value propositions, we finally went from SynSkin, which was focused around the synthetic skin, to a different product. So, the product completely changed here. We went to something which is known as a one sole, which is a one insole for everybody kind of, So, this is where our focus changed from SynSkin to one soles. This is an example of the final product which we came out with. This is known as one sole, where basically this entire insole has several different parts, very sleek looking. This is a washable kind of setting, which you can throw this in some kind of a washing machine, and this will get washed completely with no tearing. You can even hand wash them. You have a customizable arch. So, based on if somebody has a flat foot condition or a high arch condition, we can customize the arch around it, and this is the customizable soft synthetic skin material, which is protected by the US patent, right. And this is a high durable base. So, basically you do not want this insole to go bad over time. So, these are the key features which were considered for having the generic insole. There was a video here, the link is provided here, you are welcome to watch it. That is for one of the fundraising campaigns for this particular insole product which we had, and we wanted to pitch this particular design and idea to raise some funding, right. Okay. So, we saw a really nice live example where we have developed a different product than what we started from. So, many of you entrepreneurs may see the same, that you start with something, but you end up with something else which is of more value to the customers, and it is in the same lines of research only. So, typically in order to get a nice customer discovery done, we need to talk to at least 100 customers and stakeholders. They should be relevant customers and relevant stakeholders. It really works. This is a proven technique in the industry, and most of the companies which are really trying to be successful, especially the startups, are doing this all across the nations. There is a program in the US which is known as the NSF I-Corps, which has a very similar lines. It basically picks out certain business groups which are contemplating on a new idea, and basically takes them through several months of this customer discovery program in a formal setting and gives them some seed funding to get started. So, this is a very formalized program which is conducted as a part of many research firms. So, I would encourage all of you to do this. This really works. This is the best way to validate hypothesis about the problem which we are trying to solve. There is also pattern recognition, requires enough data for the points. So, in order to really get our value propositions right and validate them, we need to at least talk to 100 customers or get 100 customers surveyed, like through some kind of an online survey with the right set of questionnaires in a very comprehensive manner. Yeah. So, that is the minimum amount of things which are required in order to reach that goal, that now we know that value proposition is right. Now, we can design the features and all the details around this value propositions for our particular product. So, rather than starting with your product and going 10 miles ahead of it and launching it, do the customer discovery first. That way you can save a lot of your cost and time, right. So, some of the entrepreneurs and this products or services will have multiple customer segments, like there could be a particular product which is catered towards the hospitals as well as the end users, right. There could be a particular telemedicine app which a hospital doctors would also like to use, and maybe the customers would also like to use. So, in that case you need to interview both these customer segments or run a survey through both these customer segments. Industries like healthcare have very complex ecosystems. Sometimes you have several stakeholders like insurance agents, doctors, medical trainees, you have end users and the hospital administration. So, sometimes you need to, based on your idea of the product or service, reach out to several of the segments which you think are the stakeholders in this particular product or service. So, basically what we do find is, through discussing and finalizing the value propositions, we are clear of who our customer segments are. Sometimes you will see through looking at 3 or 4 different customer segments that one of these customer segments are approaching very positively towards the product which you are trying to offer and have a very nice set of positive feedbacks or constructive feedbacks, and the rest are not responding at all. So, now you can very clearly define the customer segments, and customer segments, when we say that, they are basically the customers who are willing to pay for your product or service at the end. So, payment is the key word. If they are not able to pay for your product or service, that is of no use. So, based on this customer discovery, where we pinpoint or be very clear about the value propositions from a fact standpoint, and we have the customer segments decided based on that, what we do find is a product market fit. So, market comprises of your customers and our initial market survey. Your product is now able to fit within this market because so many customers are validating this particular product idea by validating your value propositions. If your interviews are not leading to the product market fit, you may need to change your value proposition, hypothesis and pivot. So, this is what we just saw from our real life example. If certain things are not giving us the right answers, or we are constantly getting negative feedback, we need to probably take a step back and think about it and realign our value propositions. Is it material comfort, or is it a new product, or what exactly is going to add value to the customers? That is very, very important. So, through this customer discovery phase, for some entrepreneurs or some groups, this could be for a month, and for some groups it could be for 3 to 5 months, where we are trying to iterate and really find out what is out there in the market which is going to add value. So, students, welcome back to another very interesting session on healthcare entrepreneurship. Today we are going to talk about healthcare product specifications. Okay. So, previously we have discussed customer discovery process at length. So, basically customer discovery process lets you take your idea to be tested in the market. So, basically we constitute the customer discovery process in the forms of different value propositions which you can offer for your particular product or service idea, and we use this for specifically driving the customers to actually end up buying your product. So, with that ideology, we kind of looked over the different steps of due diligence of customer discovery previously. So today we are going to use that knowledge from the customer discovery to look at healthcare product specifications and also features. So let's get started. So a product or service spec or specifications, it's basically a blueprint that outlines the product you will be building. So basically specification, whenever we hear that term, it has something to do with the technicalities. So if I want to specify a product, I would mention its dimensions, mention the key operational steps and other details which are valuable from a technical standpoint, what it is going to look like and its specific requirements and functions, right? It may also include the persona or user it is being made for. So it could have something which is specifically made for, like a particular gender or a particular age group. These kind of details can also factor in, like I had just taken an example of one of the blood pressure measurement devices integrated with the Apple Watch, where there could be specific build up for the elderly population and a different set of blood pressure measurement settings and ranges for a different set of population. So those specifications may change across the different target customers which we are trying to look at. Let's look at one of these cartoons. So how is the product coming along? Is it almost done? So this is somebody from the board is basically trying to understand that this product was in the ideation phase and maybe they have been involved in some capacity during the customer discovery phase to give a feedback. So they were just interested to know whether this product is almost done or at which stage is it currently. So this person is saying, basically, who is building the product, it is we are still waiting for you to give me the specs so that I can start. So sometimes this becomes really important, that it is not only the overall value points or the value propositions which define a product, it is also the specs. And majority of the times we would get the specs from some standard documents or from literature of similar kind of products. So what is the use of product service specifications? So this is primarily used as an outline of the requirement for the product or service, provides all the technical information they need to build the product with specific features and functionalities. So as we go along in these slides, we will be talking about how a product specification differs from a feature. But right now what we can think of, these are all the technical information which are required to actually design or build this product, right? So this is something which would either be done by your own technical team or a set of specifications which you can give out or outsource to another group of folks who can build the technical product for you. This product specification offers a detailed technical description and also has details about the performance specifications. So if you're looking at certain sensors which are measuring some components of the human body, you would usually give the accuracy readings, what is the sensitivity of those sensors, like what is a good or bad value, how to do the calibration. So there are so many aspects which comes from a performance standpoint. So those performance specs are also needed as a part of the technical literature. And the technical standards. Sometimes certain products have to conform to certain standards. Specifically, you're looking at healthcare products. They have to have some standard backup, from which most of the specs and the details are being derived from. Otherwise, if you're not meeting the industry standards, these products may not be able to actually make it to the market. Okay, so product specifications also communicate information about users and business directives. So it not only throws out a lot of technical information, it also gives out that how a user is going to be actually using this particular product or service and what are the key directives for the business for around this particular product or service, right? So next is a very key example, and this is an example from my own startup experience. This example is known as a grip track. This was the startup name, basically a startup product name specifically. So here what we are trying to build is, this is a slip testing device. What this device basically does is, it can measure the coefficient of friction or the amount of friction which your shoe has on a particular flooring with a particular set of contaminant. Contaminant is typically some oil or water spill or some kind of a soapy spill which can lead you to a slip and fall accident, right? So typically what this device does is, you can place any of the particular floor cuttings and put or fix any kind of the shoe which you can see in the background. A shoe is placed here and there are a bunch of motors, and this is a overall robot which kind of simulates the biomechanics of slip and fall. So basically when you first hit the ground, you have a heel strike while you're walking, and then you encounter a fluid which is decreasing the friction available between your shoe and the ground, and the ground may be slippery by itself. So this is a pretty complex phenomena, and finally what happens is, your foot slips, and beyond a certain length of slip there is a sudden fall, right? So typically this device simulates that biomechanics and measures the average value of coefficient of friction, which is a standard term for measuring how much friction you have between the foot and the ground, or the footwear on the ground. And through this value you can basically understand whether your footwear is fit for that kind of a ground to walk or run normally, or you would need a better shoe with a better traction or friction performance, right? So this is what this device is for. So ideally what happens is, there are so many devices in this category which are slip testing devices, but they are all lab based devices, very bulky. So typically you cannot take these devices out to the actual shop floor or out in the field, right, where the actual slip and fall incidents may occur. So having said that, this device has a lot of complexities, and there are electronic components for like looking at what is the final response, like average response, and giving an initial trigger of doing the biomechanics. So all these things done together, this turns out to be a very expensive and something which costs a lot of time. So that is basically how this processes would go, and these kind of devices would usually stick to the labs. So we wanted to bring about or innovate a miniature and a portable version of this device for the very first time. So that was the idea of GripTrack. Can we have a device which can be used in the field and for a much more lower cost than what is being offered? So currently these devices are priced around 20 to 25 lakhs plus as far as the dollars or euro conversions are concerned, right? So this is me sitting at the University of Pittsburgh lab, which is one of the key areas in which they do a lot of slip and fall research, and they have a bunch of these devices with very sophisticated and highly accurate systems, right? So the first step before diving into all the technicalities on how we can actually build this innovative device, we wanted to look at the market, how the market actually looks like from a size standpoint, and what are the key areas in the market which we can target with this new age or innovative device which we propose. So looking at the first US and Europe based companies, so we are looking at a more than $3.3 billion kind of market size. There is an existing demand which was based on our consulting work with several big footwear based companies such as Timberland, VF Corporation, SR Max Shoes. SR Max Shoes is a big company which deals with slip resistant shoes for accurate slip testing. So there was an existing demand which we have noticed for accurate slip testing, and specifically this demand exists with a lot of footwear manufacturers which are premium footwear manufacturers, and they are really willing to take that extra mile to make sure the shoes do not slip and fall in different terrains, right? So over 330 known US companies with an average budget of worker safety of $5 to $10 million was another target segment which we were looking at. So typically what happens is there is something known as a workers compensation. It may not be that popular in India, but if you're looking at a multinational company in India, that would be a part of the insurance system. So typically what this compensation means is if you fall or slip basically slip or fall at work, or you get injured, then basically the particular company needs to pay you a huge lump sum as an insurance, basically insurance claim, right? And that automatically goes to a lot of these folks like in the US and European territories. So basically what happens is the companies lose a lot of money due to these kind of injuries and issues like which are going on in the company. If you just look up workers compensation on Google, you will see so many lawsuits in the orders of millions of dollars which are filed on an everyday basis, where a company is not willing to pay or whatnot. So typically what we wanted to target here was, if we enhance the safety of the workers in a particular organization or company, then the amount of workers compensation which they can negotiate with the insurance providers would be much more lower, right? Because they are now having all the safety practices in place and trying to establish that they are much more safer than the other companies. So the insurance values would be much more lesser in case of an accident, right? So these were another set of target markets we were exploring, and we had 50 plus US based franchisees. These are all food franchisees and hotels like McDonald's, Marriott, which are also existing in India, with a safety budget of more than almost $1 million, right? So we wanted to target this safety budget and see if our particular product, which is this portable slip and fall testing device, can be incorporated into this budget, and basically a lot of these hotels and companies can actually buy our product. So very different facets of how we wanted to look at the sale of this particular product. So looking at another market is the Indian footwear manufacturer market, which is almost in the order of rupees 40 crore, and going further could be a little bigger. This is almost a 2 years old statistics. So what we basically saw was there was an interest in purchasing or renting of an affordable slip testing device which can enhance the credibility of brands by reassuring customers on the slip safety. So basically a lot of these small footwear manufacturers, not talking about the big ones like Reebok or Nike, and many of those are from foreign brands, or the bigger ones like Bata or some other shoe companies which are there. So we are talking about the small footwear manufacturers which are really interested to use this low cost, easy to access device which they can use for testing their shoes, having a nice set of reports, and they think this would really increase the credibility of their shoes, and the public may buy it more. So there has been a lot of interest in that arena, so which we wanted to target, right? Especially the brands selling slip resistant shoes, like the Acme safety shoes and Bata. These were two of the companies which are selling a lot of slip resistant shoes and footwear. So basically these companies had shown a lot of interest into the slip testing and falling device. The next segment for the market research is the Indian hotels, industries and the companies. This is a highly untapped market, has an original potential of more than 10 crore of funding for these kind of slip safety assessments, but this is an extremely untapped, and many of these companies and hotels are not even aware of that they could get their shoes tested, and basically that would enhance the safety of their regular people. So for example, in these big kitchens of the fast food companies as well as the hotels, you would see people, the cooks basically, with this similar footwear, and they're basically running around, and there is a high chance of oil spills and spills of different kinds of fluids on the ground, and that could cause a high rate of slip and fall incidents, and sometimes even fatal when they're moving around in such a small space. So we figured that few of these companies may be interested in at least looking at our idea and potentially purchasing our device, right? So in top hotel chains such as Radisson and Oberoi, slip resistant shoes we observed have already been made mandatory for the kitchen chefs and staff. So are these shoes actually slip resistant was the question of concern, which we wanted to test through the actual slip and fall tester, which can be placed in their kitchen, and we can basically take a friction coefficient value measurement and basically tell them that whether this shoe is going to be okay here, or it is worn out, it needs a replacement, or you need a different category of the shoe. So these kind of key objectives can be established, right? There are hefty safety training budgets in the industries in the order of 1 to 3 CR. This is something again we have observed in the big firms such as BPCL and BHEL. These companies, as you can think of, deals with a lot of oils and greases, and basically the chances of slips and falls in the shop floors are fairly high. So that is where testing of these kind of footwear and potentially using this training budgets or the hefty safety training budgets specifically could be really beneficial for generating revenue for our particular business model and our product. So the next thing which we did was basically we looked at the technical specifications which we just talked about for this device, and for this we had to basically look out to the standards. So standards are fairly mentioned as a part of standard documents which are published, some quarterly, some biannually, and some annually, and you can find them across the different standard specifications. Like we are looking at ASTM standard. There is a clear standard for footwear traction testing under which this device basically falls in. So we wanted to look into that and see what are the key specs. So based on the standards, we came out with these key specs, such as the size of the device should be in the order of in meters, 0.7 along the length, 0.3 along the breadth, and 0.4 for the height, right? So then we figured that there needs to be a horizontal motor speed, which is basically driving the shoe and maintaining that slip speed which you would encounter while your foot basically slips in an actual slip and fall condition, of around 0 to 0.5 meters per second, typically between 0.3 to 0.5 meters per second. This is something which gets ramped up pretty quickly, and then there is this speed which is maintained for a certain while, right? Then you have a vertical speed. So basically it wants to simulate the heel strike, right? So during the heel strike there is a certain speed at which we strike with the heel, and that typically changes if you are walking or if you are doing a brisk walking or very fast walking versus if you are running. So that speed of basically the strike changes, and that is driven by the vertical speed, basically simulated by the vertical speed offered by the motor. So there are two motors here basically. In this particular design we wanted to have just a single motor drive both the assemblies, right? But we did want a vertical speed of at least 0.1 meters per second, also ramped pretty quickly. As far as the horizontal displacement is concerned, we need around 0.3 meters of horizontal displacement for the shoe entirely. So you need that much of movement space for the shoe and your entire formation. Vertical displacement of around 0.2 meters is more than sufficient. This is as per the standards. Vertical force of close to 500 newtons, which is basically you are looking at around 50 kilograms here. So 50 kilograms is something which you would look at, and 500 here is something which is the max. So you are looking at a person weighing around 50 kilograms. So typically around 250 newtons to 500 newtons was the norm. The motor was considered to be like a DC rotary, and in certain cases like brushless DC. Then the angle of the shoe. So basically when we encounter a heel strike, there is a certain angle which the shoe makes with the ground. So that has to be adjustable between 0 to 30, and that typically changes while you walk versus you are running, right? Weight of 60 to 80 kilograms, even up to 100 kilograms. 60 to 80 is the norm that you should be able to test for 60 to 80 kilogram weighing human subjects, shoes for them. And there needs to be horizontal and vertical load cells. So there needs to be a continuous measurement for your horizontal loading and vertical loading as this entire dynamic process goes on, right? then there needs to be handles and lockable wheels. So even if we have this wheels for this device to be portable and to be able to carry it out anywhere, you need them to be lockable, because during the operation, while the shoe basically strikes the ground, there could be a back force which basically shakes this device up. So you do not need any vibration or other aspects like which are there. So very technical features which are mentioned as a part of the standard. So I would assume, like, if you are going for any product in any category, you would basically be looking out for these kind of standards which are already there, you know. And in certain cases, like, there are standards in making, and there was one of the standards for these kind of devices which were in making, and we had also proposed a few standard based specifications based on our research, ongoing research. So if you are a researcher in that domain, you can also propose some changes to the standards. It's for the committee to overlook and give a yes or no, right? So some of the key operations which are handled by this device, let's take a quick look at this device. So basically this was all designed in a software known as SolidWorks. So it has a bunch of components which were all assembled together with screws, nuts and bolts. You have wheels to basically carry this device to any place where you would like. Then you have basically a place which is known as this last, or the foot last, that is on which, top of which you would mount the footwear, and it could be any footwear of any size. And then there are certain kinetics and kinematic measurements. So the three things which you are interested in is normal force. So in the figure bubble, as per the ASTM 2913F standards, so you need the normal force, you need a shoe floor angle of close to 17 to 22 degrees. That's usually what is expected in a human slipping experiment. And then you have lockable wheels. So these are some of the key features, and rest you have angle adjustment setups and other details like which are part of this design. So just to kind of reiterate, you are looking at the very right, and so usually your footwear would encounter the slippery ground. Then there is this heel strike. So as a part of the slippery ground, it could be a very smooth flooring, like glazed flooring or marble flooring, shiny floorings which are usually having low coefficient of friction, or it could be a flooring which has water or some kind of a fluid which is spilled on top of it. Or it could be a cleaner who has just cleaned the flooring in a hospital, and they have just it is kind of left to dry while you are walking or running around that flooring to reach to a different department, and you slip and fall, right? So there is this heel strike followed by the slip, and then finally once the slip goes beyond a certain point, you fall. So these are the 4 steps which are simulated by this device, right? So this is as far as the technical specifications are concerned. So this would be very similar for your product and service. Okay, so the next thing is there needs to be a competition analysis. We need to know who are the competitors in the market. This is all great that we are able to innovate and come out with some kind of a new product based on some existing products which are there in the market, but we need to understand very clearly what this existing products are offering in order to differentiate ourselves very clearly. So this competition analysis becomes very important. So typically what you do is we start with a generic market understanding, which we did to see if there is a market demand, where are these devices typically applicable, how long they have been around, and then we kind of decide on the technical specs based on some standards, right? Then the next step is basically we conduct a due diligence and customer discovery phase, basically within which we get to know the key value propositions of this particular device. And finally we lead to something which is known as the features. Features are not specifically the technical specifications, they are more of value proposition put in the form of features. Features can be like, this has to have a sleek back, or this has to have roller capabilities. So these are kind of some features, and I'll talk about features at length in the coming slides, but let's focus on the competition analysis for now. So what we found out was there were almost 12 slip testing devices for which IPRs or intellectual property rights existed, or there has been a patent filed, or they are mentioned as a part of some literature. So let's spend just a few seconds looking at this particular table, and then I'll explain that, like exactly what this means. So, few of the things which we can look at here are in the first column we are looking at the different devices, right. So, from the James device to the BOT 3000 to all the way up till the SATRA STM603, which is one of the closest device which they call portable, but it is still a lab based device, it cannot be taken out. And then there is this proposed grip track device which we are proposing as a part of our business, right. So, we are comparing here few of the technical specifications if you look at. So, we are looking at forces. By forces I mean, are these devices able to conform to these standards, this ASTM standard specifically, where a range of forces are mentioned, are they able to generate forces which are within the standards, right. So, what we do find out from here, the table is majority of these devices do not conform to these forces. Sliding speeds. So, sliding speed basically is the speed of your slip. None of these devices are conforming to the sliding speeds. Shoe angles, few of these devices are able to maintain those shoe angles, but majority of them cannot, right. Next is can test a whole shoe. So, majority of these devices do not have a place to mount a shoe. They can just test a material of the bottom of the shoe, and that is typically how most of the slip testing studies are being conducted, you know. So, only 2 devices except ours which we are proposing can test a actually 3 devices here can actually test the shoe like as a whole, right. So, you can place any shoe, any boot, and it can test it. Measurement of coefficient of friction within 200 milliseconds. So, this 200 milliseconds is the keyword here, because this is the time frame within which the slip will transition to a fall, and all the coefficient of friction measurements have to happen within this very small span of 200 milliseconds. So, only 2 devices other than us can actually conform to those standards. Are these devices validated to predict slip risk across floors? So, that basically means, have these devices being validated against actual human slips or human slipping experiments? So, only 2 devices out of these except ours have been validated. Validated to predict slip risk across shoes. So, across floorings, lot of these devices have been validated, like 2 devices. Across different shoes, none of these devices have been validated. So, what have they been typically doing? So, they take a small piece of rubber which they call as a sensor or some kind of a sensor measurement device or measurement tool. They just consider that rubber is similar to the bottom of a shoe, and then keep on measuring it on different floorings, right. So, typically if you look at, even after 30 or 40 years of research in this area, they have not been able to test a full shoe in a realistic setting, right. So, that was one of the key gap in the literature or the IP related environment, where we saw that we have an opportunity to build this device which can meet all these gaps, right, and bridge them as a whole, right. So, let us look at the cost, which is not a technical specification, that would be part of the feature. So, the cost of the first device, James device, is not very well known. I think it is available in very different costs across the world, and few of these devices have been backdated as well. So, then you are looking at BOT 3000, around Indian money conversion of 21 lakhs. Then you have a bunch of other numbers here. The minimum you are looking at is like 8 lakhs, and this track sled device, by the way, is not able to do any of the functions. If you look at the table from a horizontal standpoint, it is not able to meet the forces, sliding speed, shoe angles, cannot test a whole shoe, cannot measure the coefficient of friction within the 200 millisecond time frame, and is not validated across floorings or shoes, right. So, this device basically does not stand a chance in front of the proposed device, even though the cost is a little lower, right. So, our proposed device, actually the cost of building it was close to 1 lakh rupees, but we thought from the market understanding that we could possibly sell it for something around 8.5 lakh rupees. So, that is like 8.5 times almost the gain of what the market is offering. The other devices were typically the good and accurate devices in the lab setting were around 20 lakhs plus. So we thought 8.5 lakhs is a good number to start with, right? This is not a number which came to our mind out of the blue. So this is based on detailed market research and what customers are actually willing to pay for. So we did a customer discovery as well, and there was a question for how much they are willing to pay for, and this number we had basically reached based on that discovery phase, right? This mass is a hard and fast. So basically there are some recommendations for the maximum mass of the device as per the standard. So we kept it around 60 kilograms. We wanted to make sure there is enough weight on the device so that whenever the footwear hits the ground, the device just doesn't go shaking or flying off on the back side, right? There is no back force. Portability wise, a lot of the other devices have claimed portability, but they are portable, but they are not able to test a whole shoe or test it very accurately. So that's where we thought our device really stands out. Another thing to notice is the IPR dates. So we are typically looking at the devices which are fairly old. We are looking at 1979, even at 1964. So these devices have been around for a while, but typically they have not been improvised to the extent that they can accurately measure the shoe floor friction, right? So then the latest device which I can see here is around 2008. So beyond 2008, for almost, I would say, a good bit of 16 years or something, like there has been no further improvements 15 to 16 years in this particular device. So what are the key value propositions which we understood from the initial market research, competition analysis, and the customer discovery phase? These are all value proposition guesses which we started off with, and we finally figured this that most of these guesses turned out to be facts. So the initial guesses were, let's start thinking in the mode of the customer discovery, which we just learned the different stages of it in the previous lectures. So the first guess was the low cost. What we thought was the most important for the footwear manufacturers or the companies in the Indian setting was it's a very price sensitive market. So low cost of this device, it's going to be the main value proposition. The second part is the first portable device, even though we see a lot of other devices which are portable, but first portable device in its own category, which is basically testing a whole shoe, right? So none of the other devices which could test a whole shoe was portable. So that is the category we are looking at. Most accurate footwear COF estimation was another value proposition. So we thought that this device is going to be unique in this sense and add a value to the customers, because this is the most accurate device in the market, which is based on a lot of human slipping experiments we have conducted as a part of the lab in a gait lab. So typically we conduct human slipping experiments in a gait lab setting where there are a lot of cameras for motion capture, there are force platforms for measuring your forces, and there is a harness which you wear while walking so that you don't slip and fall and injure yourself, right? So these were the steps which typically was part of a human slipping experiment. We call it unexpected human slipping experiment, done in a very sophisticated gait lab, and based on that we found out that this is one of the most accurate device which is validated, right? So with this I would like to thank you. This is all for the session. Hopefully you have learned something. We'll see you next time for the next class, right? Thank you.